From the worst to suddenly the best, how did this bush-reliant wiener suddenly become a wiener everywhere? Well, let's go to the trip to the past and find out why. Welcome to August 1st, 2023. Now, Doug had several main differences, so let's start off with Doug's attack. Instead of having constant damage and healing, these stats are based on how close enemies are. The closer they are, the more damage and healing Doug will have, making his attack very gimmicky. But the worst part is that Doug didn't have his super healing charging trait, so Doug couldn't get his super easily. But what made this even more worser was that Doug's super was much harder to hit on teammates, because it was even skinnier, had a shorter range, no wall pierce, and it couldn't curve onto enemies. So screw reviving your teammates, only Doug gets the wiener. But ignoring that, what if you lock in and get that wiener to your teammate? Well, they might end up dying still, because it only revives 50% of your health. Yeah, Brawl Stars didn't want another 8-bit extra life situation. They even got desperate to create the worst star power, Fast Food, for his flimsy speed boost. So because Supercell was losing out money because they made the wiener too weak, they buffed Doug on August 15. Doug received a 4% health buff, allowing more survivability. His super significantly got better with it, being able to go through walls. Alongside that, he can revive teammates at full health. But that led to a drawback with Doug's supercharge rate slightly decreasing. Now, even though these buffs were necessary for Doug, it should have been included in the initial release. They still left his gimmicky attack alone alongside his supercharging issue. And I don't think Supercell realized this when they buffed him on October 24. They basically made the range and the width of the super larger. To reiterate, Doug's initial release should have been like this, so this didn't really affect him. It wasn't until February 27, 2024 when they made a game-changing change for Doug. Doug's healing and damage is now fixed on all ranges. But that specific change wasn't what made Doug broken. Instead, it was the bugs that came with this change. So apparently Doug was healing double the amount, which made Doug very strong until they shut down this wiener after 7 days. Funny enough, that also happened with his Man-O-War Doug skin on August 8th. But they also shut it down that quickly. Alongside that, they changed his self-service star power healing from 432 to 20% healing, which did slightly help with surviving. Anyways, now that they fixed Doug's attack, he still has that supercharging issue. Doug has a hard time getting to enemies, leading to Doug to rely on a lot of bushes to attack unsuspecting enemies. Wasn't the reason why he's always in the back line because he's a support brawler? Well, his healing is a little underwhelming, because Doug makes a 3v3 match into a 2v3 match in most maps. So you need Doug to keep reviving brawlers to be an actual threat. Otherwise, he's just a tanky punchy bag that can give free supers. So after a year, on June 24, 2025, Doug finally receives the changes he needs that makes him broken? Well, that's shocking. Supercell made 4 changes that completely changed Doug. Most significantly, he received a trait that charges his super when healing allies, a similar trait that Barry has that helps cycle super so often. So with this trait on Doug, he's basically a free hot dog machine. But to ensure they actually get delivered, Doug's super will now home in on enemies. So now this super basically has Piper's homemade recipe built in, which is kinda broken. But not as broken as his reworked fast food star power. Instead of granting ally speed, the wiener will give Doug full health when he successfully revives a brawler, meaning that Doug is pretty much invincible with how fast he can cycle his wiener. Okay, so with these changes, they pretty much patched every issue Doug had, and he's actually a pretty good brawler at the moment. But what if I told you he may exceed even more later? Well, the 4th and final change is his upcoming hypercharge. Basically, with his hyper super, his attacks get mirrored to your teammates you hit. So good luck surviving. So that's how the wiener turned from the worst to the best. Check out this video if you enjoyed it.